Hello, Martin. How are you doing?
Hey man, how are you doing? I'm
Yeah,
great.
very, very well, thank you. I hope you're keeping well and life is good in Germany.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining me. It's going to be good to chat for the next half an hour or so about your career as a working musician. Really, I've not got a predefined agenda. We've not got any kind of specifics. But I know you're one of those musicians that excite so many people because you've achieved so much in this new era, this digital era, this YouTube era. And I think for many, you're kind of iconic in a sense of you personify what it means to have taken full advantage of the new world in which we find ourselves, specifically around the YouTube thing. So we're going to touch a little bit on that if that's all right with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want to start. I want to go right back to the very, very beginning of a very small Martin Miller and talk about the early days
Yeah.
and what it is that got you into music and specifically playing in the first place. So kind of take us right back to the beginning.
Well, what got me into music was my father's passion for the rock music of the UK and the US.
Yeah.
This is what I would say it was. So I was very, very early on, I was drawn to bands like Pink Floyd, Rolling Stones. Then I got into the grunge thing, Nirvana. Then I got into metal through Metallica. I got into progressive rock through Dream Theater. I got into jazz and fusion through Pat Metheny and Mike Stern and Michael Brecker and those types of things, Chick Corea. And yeah, my love for music has never ended. It was an early love, and it's going strong still. So, yeah.
When did that love then kind of translate into picking a guitar up and kind of beginning your career as an instrumentalist?
I think that was kind of gradual. We did have a guitar, a cheap classical guitar in the house, as any German household. We for some reason we don't have Western steel string guitars. We do have classical guitars laying around in our basements and rooftops and whatever. So I did a bit of dabbling, and eventually I was asking my parents for classes because I saw my father play on it. I was like, oh, that's cool. I want to be able to do that. And they signed me up for classical lessons, which were really, really terrible with a horrendous teacher, a really horrendous teacher. And somehow that didn't break my love for music, but I always knew instinctively that I wanted to play the electric guitar. And I think my parents thought that I would have to play a proper guitar first before I could play an electric guitar. But yeah, my mind was always set on playing the electric guitar. That was the sound that not just the sound, but also the attitude behind it, what the instrument stands for. That was something that always piqued my interest. And the acoustic guitar doesn't quite stand for the same thing, which is why I don't have that close of a relationship with it.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting because I think there is a perception from non-musos historically that you learn on an acoustic and you progress to an electric, which is actually probably
two different instruments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like saying I'm going to start on a drums kit so then I can play the flute. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. No, that's
techniques. It's
That's a really, really interesting observation. And so as that journey progressed and you became a more competent player, then there must have been a point where you thought, actually, you know what? I love this so much. I can't see myself doing anything as a career other than kind of having this guitar in my hand. Talk me through that part of the journey.
I guess I had that revelation when I was around 15 or 16. I was going to a local music school for a couple of years, had a great teacher, and it's one of those, it's those formative years, right? When you have to decide on what you're going to do with your life. And I didn't really see another option, maybe something with computers, but I was always told that I was so horrible at math that wouldn't work. So guitar it is. And around when I was 16 years old, I decided that I'm really going to go for it. Completely neglected my school and my grades and all that stuff, and focused on the guitar. Grinded through high school, made it out alive, and then pursued a degree in music.
Whereabouts did you do your degree?
I do have a degree in jazz, rock, pop guitar from Karl Maria von Weber College in Dresden, which is where later on I taught for 5 years. So it came full circle. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's really interesting that you mentioned teaching there, because again, part of this series that we're running about working musicians, teaching's a huge part of the revenue armory of a working musician, and actually, it's one of the parts that I think is it's often overlooked and it's often undervalued, and it's seen as one of those things that people do just to kind of pay the bills, really, rather than something that they enjoy. But actually, from our experience working with hundreds of musicians across the UK and further afield, teaching's more than that. I think it adds a value to you as a musician, being able to translate your skills to somebody else. It actually improves you, I think, as a working musician. Kind of tell us about the value that you found in teaching.
Oh, first of all, I love teaching. I've always been teaching, and I intend to teach for a very long time. So I did the private music school thing, which I wasn't very fond of, because it was mostly people there who didn't really want to be there or who weren't very serious about the instrument. And I think it takes a very specific kind of teacher to succeed in that. It's a very specific social skill set that you need to have. It's almost, it has more to do like with working at a kindergarten or a children home or that type of thing, where you're more of a social worker really than a guitar teacher. And that is something that didn't work so well for me. What works very well for me is, because of the reputation that I've established for myself, people come to me for private lessons, but not because they want somebody to teach them guitar, but they want me to teach them guitar. And so there is that pre-established trust there. And if I can receive that from a student, I think I can really help them out. And then I enjoy every minute of that process.
There must be a huge satisfaction in seeing your students kind of progress and develop as musicians.
Yeah. You struggle with them too. You struggle with them, you grow with them. It's that kind of thing. As you mentioned earlier, you do become a better musician. And also, I think there's something else to it. I think that to a degree, even if you take money for it, I think to a degree there is a bit of a moral obligation to pass your knowledge on.
There is a social responsibility in what you're doing.
Because you live in a society that made that possible for you. You got to pass something on.
I love that.
And yeah, so that's the way I see it. And that's why I was teaching in public college for 5 years for a horrendous pay, quite honestly, because that's in Germany, that's public college, so you get public pay. And as you can imagine, the amount of money that is available, the amount of budgeting that is available for public music colleges, arts-based degrees, it's laughable. It's laughable. Absolutely. There's so much more money to be earned in the private sector. But yeah, I still did that because I felt like, well, I've received that tuition in this place and I didn't pay for it. I got to give it back in some way.
No, that's fantastic and very, 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 credit to you. I think that's a really, really good point that you make about the social responsibility that we have as musicians to kind of pass that down to the next generation. I really, really like that. Sorry,
one more thing, and also what's also awesome, you get to kind of establish yourself a little bit in other people, and as they grow, a little something of you retains in the world.
Yeah,
because somehow you've passed something on to somebody else, and that is now a part of them.
Yeah,
and
that's fantastic.
Yeah, some of your spirit gets to live on a little in a way.
No, I like that.
That's cheesy. Yeah.
It doesn't. No, I agree entirely. I look at some of the staff here that we've had from being apprentices when they were 16 as school leavers, and then now directors of the companies within our group. And actually, that's that does that. I like to think that we've kind of helped shape them and influence them, and that's a real privilege, isn't it? Whether it be music or whether it be in business or whatever it is, that's a real privilege and a real responsibility. So no, I think that's right. And I think I think those that dismiss teaching out of hand, as some do,
it's interesting because also there's not a lot of good teachers out there, quite honestly. I think there's more for guitar specifically. I think there's a bigger amount of great guitar players than there is great guitar teachers.
Yeah.
And I've had music teachers that were not great. And I've had teachers outside of music that were not great. and that can make or break a potential for somebody.
Do you think when you're looking for a teacher, because I think one thing to note here is that when we talk about kind of having lessons and tuition, we aren't just talking about kind of young children that are starting out. I know session guitarists that literally kind of tour the world with household names that will still every 3 months have a lesson with somebody. Wow. Because they want to kind of just stay at the top of the game. They want to be current with kind of certain new techniques and styles that fit certain genres. Yeah. One of our clients has played with and I'm talking platinum album kind of recording artists here. Had a lesson with another guitarist only a few weeks ago. Because he says I've landed myself with this tour, and there's a load of R&B numbers in there. Mm-hmm. He says, and I've never played R&B. I play kind of classic rock and roll, and a bit of pop. He says, and it's a completely different sound set. So even from a tonal perspective, he says I needed to kind of find someone that knows this gig, because this is out of my comfort zone, and I know I'm not arrogant enough to think that I'm going to smash it without putting the work in. So I think that's an important note, isn't it? That even when you get to the top of the game, it's naive to think that you know it all and that you can't improve and you can't expand your usability as a musician. Is that fair to say, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think once you think you got it all down, you're in for stagnation. And I can totally relate to that. I don't take lessons per se. I do take vocal lessons regularly still.
Yeah.
I intend on taking some composition lessons very soon. I do not take guitar lessons. Haven't for a while, but I do constantly acquire and consume tuitional material.
Yeah.
That either friends, colleagues, or other people I admire put out there. Like I constantly am in the search of great books, great resources for information, great videos, webinars, whatever it is. I constantly look out for those things, either as a resource for my own teaching or just out of my own curiosity.
I think that brings us to a really good point. That I think one of the things that I think has been so influential in your success is that you are really keen to share some of your kind of teaching resources, and you've managed to productize that. And you touched on this earlier about this process that you went through to make yourself a household name's not the right word, but to raise your profile within your industry and as a professional musician, but also as a recording artist, I guess. Mm-hmm. Playing guitar is one thing, but actually being able to equip others and resource others in the way that you have done, do you think that's had a significant impact on your success commercially with the band and with the Martin Miller Band and things like that? Do you think producing the videos that you've produced, the tuition stuff, has really, really helped you reach new audience, but also to make the relationship with your fans and your followers deeper?
That's a good point. I think my audience is kind of twofold.
Yeah.
And that has changed over the years as I've changed the type of things that I do. So initially, if you look back a couple of years onto my YouTube channel, my website, it was completely guitar centric.
Yeah.
And as I became a singer, and I tried to become a bit more, I try to see things for the bigger picture. I try to become more of an overall artist.
Sure.
Like one of my idols in this regard is a guy like Steven Wilson, for example.
Yeah.
Who is part guitar player, part singer, part producer, and that trifold really appealed to me. He's probably very, very evenly spaced. Maybe Steven Wilson is 33% singer, 33% guitar player, 60. How much is left? Yeah. 33.
Another 33.
No, I'm trying to say something else. He's probably mostly a producer.
Okay.
And also a guitar player and also a singer. Yeah. And I'm probably mostly a guitar player, but also a singer, also a producer.
Sure.
And as I exposed that other side of me more, my audience is kind of twofold from now. There's the guys who were in it from very early on, who were there for all the guitar stuff, the very nerdy, intricate type of thing, the kind of guitar exploratory type thing.
Yeah.
Then there's the more general audience that come to see the performances. And I still try to remain in touch to some degree with that core audience that I built from very early on by providing them tuitional material and those kinds of very guitar specific videos, or let them in on a new instrument that I've received or developed, and share details about that, or how those things came to be. That is not something that is necessarily interesting for maybe 60% of my followership, but it's very important to that core audience that was there from the beginning.
Fantastic. So when we kind of having this conversation, it gives me real insight into kind of the journey that you've been on to where we're at now. There's two types of musicians, in my opinion. There's the ones that kind of just go with the flow and see what happens. And there's those that decide, this is where I want to go. And importantly, strategically, this is how we're going to get there. What we talked about percentage splits. Some people are 100% strategy. Some people are 100%, let's see what happens. Which category do you think you fall into in terms of commercially making a living out of music? Have you been strategic in what you've done, or have you just kind of ridden a wave that seems to be happening and see where it's gone?
I think I'm right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Like, I've made a firm decision in around 2016 that I'm going to become a singer, and I'm going to pursue the voice just like I pursued the guitar back in the day.
Yeah.
And make that a core of my artistry, not just a gimmick, but make it a core of my artistry. And therefore, I'm currently, people haven't heard it. Unfortunately, I've completely redefined myself as an artist. Unfortunately, I have nothing to show for because my album isn't out. So I can't wait for that album to be out, for people to realize who I kind of always wanted to be.
Sure.
I always, I did very guitar-centric music early in my career, but that felt like that was something that I needed to do, not something that was necessarily what I always wanted to do in my life. I think I'm much closer to that now. And in 2016, I made the firm decision to go down that road of becoming that bigger picture type artist. So the macro decision was made very consciously, strategically, but what I do along the way is very much in the moment type.
Yeah, responding to the current trends, isn't it?
Like the session band thing that I'm doing came out of pure chance. It was that I was booked for the Ibanez Guitar Festival in Germany, and they put Felix Lehrmann, our drummer, on the bill, who I had known for a long time just from checking out his music. But I finally got to know him, and we exchanged numbers, and a few of our performances ended up online. And I thought, well, the playing is fantastic, the band sounds killer, but the sound is bad, the video is bad. We should get in the studio and do this again, but under proper conditions.
Yeah.
And that was so well received that we just had to keep going. But there was no master plan behind that. It was just really a flow kind of state of mind where we do whatever feels good in the moment. And I kind of feel that can lead you towards the right thing. Following the path of least resistance is going to lead you to be the best you. And Paul Gilbert said a great thing to me. He said, you got to try to be the best you and make the best out of yourself. And if people give you money for it, you have a job. If people don't give you money for it, you have a hobby. And
that's profound. Yeah.
That rings so true for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I would say that is to be successful in commercial music, and success takes all different varieties. Now, we talked about your days in function bands, and we'll maybe touch on that in a little while. But it's fair to say, isn't it, that to be successful, it's a team sport, and you've got to have the right people around you. Now, one of the things I'm a huge fan of the session band. I think some of the stuff on there I regularly have on YouTube. It's incredible, awesome. and I know I speak for anybody that's watched it when I say it's insane the talent that's in that room. How did you go about kind of recruiting them? You talked about kind of this meeting at the Ibanez Festival with you and drums, but you've obviously kind of recruited other players around that, and whatever you did, it worked because the chemistry there. Talent is one thing, and getting the great technical players in the room is one thing, but actually having the humility and the musical discernment is another. And boy, in that room, is there some of that. How did you go about kind of recruiting and choosing who was going to be in that band, and knowing whether it worked, whether it didn't work? Were they the first choice? And tell me to mind my own business. Were they the first choice, or did kind of some not meet the grade? I don't know. You tell me.
I couldn't agree more with what you said. I've played with some ferociously gifted musicians that I had no chemistry with.
Sure.
Or where the group where we played together, but I ended up leaving the stage feeling like there was something left to be desired.
Sure.
Even though everybody as an individual is at the top of their game, the entity didn't work so well. Now, honestly, with that band, I just lucked out. My initial idea was that I'm gonna do those sessions regularly, but I'm gonna keep bringing different musicians in.
Yeah.
But those guys communicated to me that they were enjoying it so much that they want to keep doing it, and so we just stayed one band, and I actually quite like that. I like that sense of camaraderie. I like that you grow together, that you develop and share memories together. I think that's very valuable. Now, as for each individual member, Marius, the keyboard player, Marius Leicht, and I, we go way back. We've met at like a jazz talent competition back when we were 17. We've known each other for more than half our lives. He's been my ex-roommate and in college and all that stuff. So we've known each other for a long time. So that was a no-brainer. Because frankly, I don't know anybody who can play great piano, play great organ, play great synth, has technique, has improvisational chops. There's all those things that come together. And I think he's kind of the heart and soul of the band. He is, and this I shouldn't say this, but he would probably be the most difficult member to replace.
Sure.
But not that I would ever want to replace any of those guys.
Yeah, no, of course. But
he's such a rare breed.
Yeah.
He also understands me so well, so I had total trust in him because he knows my music taste in and out. So we speak the same language when it comes to that. Then I had Felix Lehrmann on drums, who had been kind of an urban myth. Like when I was in college and was around 20 years old, people started talking about Felix Lehrmann from Berlin, who started playing in all kinds of successful German bands and with all kinds of successful pop acts, and who really made a name for himself. And I checked him out online and was absolutely blown away. And I was like, I wish that one day I could play with a drummer like that.
Yeah.
So I was fanboying over him before I met him. And when I met him and we got along really well, I just took the opportunity to grab his phone number and hold on to it. And with Benny, our bass player, he got introduced to me through a mutual friend, Nico Schliemann, who's the guy who comes in on second guitar every once in a while for the big productions. So I've been friends with Nico forever. We've been chatting online forever, met tons of times in real life as well. And he eventually introduced me to Benny, who in his town is like the prime bass player. Now, you have to understand that we're from all kinds of parts of Germany. Yeah. So it is kind of a recruited band. We do not hang out on the weekends and play music together. We literally only ever meet to make those videos.
Yeah.
There's no rehearsal, no nothing. But to be honest, I didn't think too much about it. I just thought, who's a cool guy, who can play, and who has time and wants to do this. And I lucked out. I lucked out because the sum of its part, or the end product, is much bigger than the sum of its parts. I've had bands that possibly had a bigger sum.
Yeah, greater technical ability. Yeah.
A lesser result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So obviously the session band is part of what you do. You are one of those kind of few people that have achieved the holy grail of being a guitarist with your signature series with Ibanez. So we'll touch about that. Tell us a little bit about how that came about.
I mean, come on. I'm just an East German little kid born in '85 in GDR. Like we barely had any music to listen to in those days, right? The fact that I would end up with a signature guitar with one of the biggest guitar brands in the world, it seems like an impossibility.
Absolutely.
And it seems so impossible that I didn't really even dare to dream of it ever, you know, because it's just so far out of reach. Now, I guess I was born in the right time in the right spot, because I was there when the internet boom happened. I could make a name for myself despite being from the middle of nowhere.
Sure.
And so Ibanez are very savvy when it comes to feeling and understanding trends and certain streams within the music industry and the guitar industry in particular. And they understood very early on, unlike other archetypical brands maybe do, who hold on to the past very much.
They're legacy brands, aren't they?
Yes, exactly.
We all know who you're talking about. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and they understood that in order to stay relevant and to get an edge on those other brands that have all that kind of history, they need to stay on top of the game. And so they I think they understood that you can give somebody an instrument that plays in front of 100,000 people every night, but only 2 people out of the audience care what the instrument is. Or you could give an instrument to somebody who has a much smaller followership, but they very dearly care about what is going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what instruments that person's playing. I think that's where I carved out my little niche and tried to make the most of that. And Ibanez was kind enough to honor me with it's a great, which has sold very well. Fortunately, it has sold very well. So I don't feel like I feel a little less like I don't deserve it.
Listen, you absolutely do deserve it. Just what I'd say commercially, both musically and commercially, what you've done is absolutely awesome. And I want to touch on this. So obviously we're kind of talking about this series about being a working musician, and we talked about your session band. We talked about your original material. We talked about teaching. We talked about the signature series. And without going into numbers, these are all different revenue streams that are part of an ecosystem, really, of your career. How important is it that as a working musician you do have different channels and different streams? You know, we talked about teaching, and we talked about, just before we came live, me and you were talking about function band work, and how important that's been a part of your career. Tell us how important it is to you to have different projects, different streams coming in, and how that makes this career viable for you.
Yeah, I mean, you could ask that question to somebody who has been solely relying on gigs in the year 2020.
Yeah.
Because they'll tell you, oh, if only I had diversified a little bit more. I think it's kind of crucial for a self-employed musician to do that, because you cannot always rely on the next phone call coming in.
Sure.
In general, I try to make myself as independent of other people as I can.
Yeah.
So I try to create my own opportunities as opposed to waiting for opportunities to arise. And so, because that's how I founded my own band and started doing my own thing. I did not wait to be the guy who gets called for it. I am the one who made the call.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I approach it. Again, that's with a smaller audience, possibly. But at least I get to be my own boss. I get to call the shots. I get to make my own opportunities. And it kind of, so right now, let's go back to last year. Last year, my income, I just did the tax, so I know what the income was. So it was a mixture of revenue from the guitar, teaching at college, teaching privately, selling online study materials. YouTube revenue, unfortunately, is very low because It's cover music, so it's pathetic.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
almost none. So not that I'm at liberty to talk about numbers here, but it's just
Please don't. Yeah.
not sustainable. And what else was there? And touring. So I did a lot of tours last year. That was some income, clinics, video work for brands.
Yeah.
Little bit of session work. I don't do too much, but I do some session work. So what was that? It was 9 streams of revenue right there. And one thing that I felt worked really well for me is having passive income.
Yeah.
So for example, I sell this masterclass through JTC, which is a UK company.
Yeah.
The improvisation masterclass, and I've put that out 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago. Still keeps selling, and it hasn't stopped selling because yes, I do not earn money from the videos directly, but I build my brand through those videos. People go to my website, they see what I have to offer, and I make the money back indirectly. Yeah. And also, of course, for the session men, I got to mention this very particularly. We are crowdfunded, so we have Patreon as a monthly income, and that barely covers the expenses.
Yeah.
So, but I could absolutely not do these videos without those gracious people who support us month after month.
It's really interesting. Patreon's something that we've seen in the UK take off in the last 2 or 3 years, and it's been a lifeline to a lot of people that bring immense value to people, but ordinarily can't kind of extract commercial income from it. And it's been a lifeline to many content creators. You know, I'm a massive fisherman, and there's a couple of young lads that make great fishing videos, and I support, I think, £6 a month or whatever it is. And you know, that's my way of kind of supporting that. And
I support people on Patreon as well. Yeah. Like I'm very much into video games, and my favorite YouTube gamers who make amazing videos on a monthly basis, I do support them.
That's fantastic. So to begin to wrap up then, if you're a musician coming out of college, or you're somebody that's doing a bit of function work, a little bit of session work, a little bit of touring work, what three pieces of advice, but kind of in the here and now, knowing what you know about the industry, what you've learned, but also what you think the trends are going to be in years to come, what kind of advice would you be giving to people right now to make a viable career for themselves in the music industry?
The first advice I'm going to give is to take my advice that I'm about to give with a grain of salt, but because whatever held true for me does not necessarily hold true for somebody else. When I started YouTube, I uploaded my first YouTube video 17 years ago? 13 years ago. YouTube isn't that old. 13 years ago. And it was a completely different beast back then. It is a completely different beast than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, see it within the context of whatever time those things happened.
Sure.
So if you were to start out now, you'd have to probably go about things very differently if you wanted to build an online following. I got my feet off the ground because I was so early, was in the boat so early.
Yeah.
That helped. Second piece of advice: work on yourself. I see so many people looking for the silver bullet. Like, what about if I upload my video at 5 p.m. on a Sunday? What if I upload it at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday? What if I change the thumbnail? What if I change the description? What if I put this in the title first? What if I make this face in the thumbnail? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is all good, and that can work. But whenever you watch one of those guides, how to get 1 million subscribers in 5 weeks, all that kind of stuff, the most essential thing that people seem to forget when they look after these things is that you have to have something to offer that people are willing to spend money on. Otherwise, how are you going to make a living?
Yeah.
So if session work is what you're after, make sure that you got great gear or you don't even have to have great gear, but you need to have gear that you know how to get good results with.
Yeah.
You got to know how to learn songs fast and efficiently and reliably. You got to be a good hang. You got to be able to read. You got to be able to record yourself. You got to be able, all these types of things. You got to be able to understand harmony. You got to be able to harmonize things on the fly. You got to be able to improvise. All those types of things. You got to have those skills down. Otherwise, there will be somebody else take the job from you, I think. And if a YouTube career is what you're after, learn all those things as well, but also learn to work with cameras, learn to speak to a camera, learn to present yourself, come up with original ideas.
I think that's it, isn't it? I think, whilst I think, I mean, you occupy a niche, you head a niche, and you actually paved the way for a niche, I think, because it's okay to, there's lots of YouTube guitarists out there now, but for many, you were kind of the original one, and you saw that opportunity. And we talked earlier about riding waves as they come. And I think for many, you were kind of the one that kind of said, okay, this is possible, this is viable, and you can use this YouTube thing, this new fandangled technology to kind of create yourself as we call it in the business and the key person of influence, where it's somebody that kind of commands a certain niche, gives away free content, and by free you might have a small price tag on it, but what I mean is it's got little commercial value to you. You give it away, and what that does, it elevates your status as an authority within a niche. So, if I were to run an online YouTube course about how to become, an online course about how to become a YouTube guitarist, or you were to run one, you would get significantly more followers because you've actually been there, done that, and you've established yourself as the expert and the person of influence in that niche. And I think that's really true of music. And I know a guy who makes a fantastic living. He puts his stuff out on Spotify and what have you. He makes a fantastic living from songs, small folk songs based on stories from Cornwall and Devon, with two counties in the UK. And he writes these songs, puts them on Spotify, makes no money from streaming, but it's just sufficient to.
Of course,
yeah,
not. But it's. I didn't even mention that because.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But again, it's like YouTube. Streaming and Spotify is actually a tool. It's a marketing tool to sell your gigs and your tickets for your gigs. Yeah. And I think the sooner people realize and recognize what is a revenue stream and what is a marketing tool, that's when that's part of the secret to cracking it, isn't it?
That's a lot of people ask me, well, why are you investing so much money into the session band? It's not paying anything. Well, I'm building my brand.
Yeah.
Like I could really tell the growth within 1 year that I had when I played at Guitar Summit, which is kind of a Musikmesse kind of thing in Mannheim, Germany. I played there in 2017. Had 15 people in the audience. In 2018, I had 250 people in the audience. Yeah. And that was all based on those videos.
Yeah.
So branding, very important. Yeah. And also one more thing, if you have a vision, don't let anybody talk you out of it.
Yeah.
I've had my professors from college back in the day call me up. They wanted me to write a book for for a publisher that they were working with. And at the time, I just started my relationship with JTC. And because I was proofreading some of their work or somebody else's work from the same publisher, I knew that getting a book out on those through a publisher can take years. Years and years and years till it pays. And I was so broke at the time. I said, I'm not gonna write a book because I need payment. I need stuff out now that pays the bills. And so they started talking me into, well, you should write books. You should play gigs. You should do all those things because you got to have some quote unquote real values. And I was laying all my eggs into the online and passive income basket at the time. And in hindsight, I got to say I was right to do that because I'm very much independent of a publisher by now, or
Yeah.
I can do things completely on my own. I have complete authority over what I do and when I do it.
I think,
And most importantly, I'm having a blast doing it.
yeah,
So
I think what's been really interesting throughout this conversation, Martin, is that we talk about being working musicians here, but actually you've clearly got a very, very commercial sense in a sense of, I know just from this kind of last half an hour chatting, that you're the sort of person that will ensure that, as well as the musical aspect of your career, you're actually paying attention to the business as well. And you're saying, okay, what are the next opportunities? What is going to happen in the world? And you're aware of emerging technologies, emerging strategies, and emerging commercial opportunities. You know, I think that's really important. And that doesn't happen by accident. You know, we touched on earlier that you make sure you're doing lots of reading. And things like that, they inspire you, they expand your mind, and they open your eyes to opportunities that people that just spend all the time with the guitar in the hand actually don't see. And that's been really evident. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I guess. Although I'm not the smartest businessman, and also for me, business, and this is maybe why I wouldn't be a good employee. For me, business has as much to do with finances as it has to do with an inner feeling. I have to feel good about something, and money is not always the prime target. Like I've had offers to come to fly to God knows where overseas and shoot videos for this and this and that, and with a high fixed fee. But I'm like, you know what? I want to do it on my own. I want to do it here. Less pay, but I get to be my own boss.
Yeah.
So that feeling of freedom for me oftentimes is much more important than the actual money going in. Also, I could have done much more of that online tuition kind of material, but back in 2013 I decided to release an album instead, which cost me money up front. Right now I'm working on an album, and that costs me a lot of time and money to make. But there's that inner voice that tells me I got to do it, because I gotta keep the flame burning.
Yeah.
So I don't always make decisions in favor of business.
To clarify, when I talk about business, I don't mean necessarily the financial aspect. What I mean is opportunities and how you develop that. For example, you talk about your album, that whilst that financially, you know, we talk streaming revenues and next to nothing, you recognize the value in the bigger ecosystem of that. And actually, you know, to be a successful business, there has to be desire, there has to be vision and drive. You know, a business without a vision will die fairly quickly.
I want the album to get a lot of attention. I don't want. Yes, the music, the way I make the music is purely the way I want it, and not tailored for any type of audience. I try to keep that pure. At the same time, I want a lot of people to listen to it.
Yeah.
Although I won't compromise my end product to make that happen, but I will make sure that I do a decent marketing campaign, that I present my album well, make sure it has nice artwork, make sure I have a good music video for it, make sure that all the links in the description work and lead you down the right path. Those types of things, yes, those are very, very important. Like before, I saw a lot of musicians, like the Patreon thing we talked about just a second ago. I saw a lot of musicians. I launched my Patreon campaign in late 2018. And after that, I saw like another 30 Patreon campaigns among guitar players spawn out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And
that's exactly what I mean about you being at the front of the curve of spotting.
Well, I didn't know, but the thing is, what those guys see, one week after I've started my campaign, there's another 10 campaigns out there. What a lot of people don't understand is I was brooding over my campaign for at least 6 months before I put it online. I was talking to a lot of people who had their own campaigns out. I was researching other campaigns that were successful. I was brainstorming about what can I offer as perks? How much should this cost? How should the model be? Should it be per month, per creation? And I was brooding over that for a very long time. And I think that's what made it successful. I think you can see that it wasn't just a spur of the moment. Oh yeah, I got to do that too, so I have it off the list.
That's exactly what I meant about you kind of ensuring that your mind is broadened to those opportunities. You know, you said other people have just heard of Patreon and launched it, whereas you did research behind it and you made sure that you were kind of the connect. Listen, Mike, I don't want to keep going on, but it's been so insightful. Thank you so much for taking the time out to chat. It's incredible, and I'd love to do it again sometime and chat and
yes,
pick your brains, because I know so many of our clients just will find that so useful. And I just thoroughly enjoy it. So thank you very much for taking the time out, my friend, and we'll chat again soon.
Thank you very much, man.
Bless you. Thank you.